It's your boy Big Wheel Dog 82 in the soil, and it's springtime. So right now we're in the beginning of May, and that means there's a lot of things going on right now. But specifically today, we are kicking off the first video of this year for the Gardening with Limitations. Now, as a friend of mine, Hippie Chick Homestead, aka Angela, once said, my videos, while I try to gear them towards those with physical ailments, not all the videos are just fitting to those individuals. So today we're going to learn a little bit of lesson about listening to the body, because I've got a big project going on today, and how my body feels, why I'm doing it today, and what I think about once I consider a project, and especially considering after it's done. As you can see right here, I am fully set up to turn my compost pile. This is the first compost that I'm making in this brand new bin. I was trying to just build it to be twice the size of my old bin, but it's probably going to end up being more like 3 times. Now, as you can see, that's a lot of compost to move. This is the first flip, and we've got tarps everywhere. And this is where the journey begins. It's going to take a lot out of me to move that pile, not once, but twice. And this is where listening to the body goes, because I get it. Not everybody's ailments are the same. Something that's easy for me to do on a good day, that's a very important distinction, on a good day may be completely impossible for others on their best day. So do not undertake any kind of a project that you know full and well is beyond your scope and ability to do safely. There's a caveat. Those like myself who have been either military or ROTC or just grueling jobs where if you look at the entire job as one huge project, you kind of taught yourself in the beginning, that's too big for me to do. That's where you're wrong, because self-doubt is a very important thing that you need to get over if you're going to see what your limits actually are. If you're able-bodied, you're kind of in a catch-22, because you figure something like flipping a compost pile, that's an easy job. But consider this. Say it's a hot day. You're flipping a huge pile, whether it be the size of mine or bigger. You haven't drank enough water. You're sweating. All of a sudden you stop sweating, and you're not paying attention to it because you are focused on your job. What happens if you get heat stroke? Which happens to people every single year. And worse off, you don't have a neighbor nearby who can casually look out the window and see you're in trouble. You don't have a significant other or family around that can see that you're in distress. And you're physically unable to get to your phone or the back door. At least those of us conscious enough to know that there are a lot of things that we need to consider before we handle a task, you don't always consider other things that could happen. So just like the physically able, us with physical, mental, or personal issues, we also need to take stock in the things that might happen in an extreme case. So be prepared to A, hydrate, B, at least have somebody that knows what you're doing. That way they can check on you. It might seem annoying because, trust me, I don't like my boss, aka my wife, always knowing what I'm doing, because if she did, she'd probably put a stop to it or nag me to death, so that I, in spite of, how I feel I am, go out of my way and make sure she's not right. So, I advise everybody, at least tell somebody what you're doing or have help on hand just in case. Not preaching, I'm just trying to help those who are like I was and would push. And sometimes you don't know how hard you're pushing until you push too far. Now that we've got the safety aspect of that out of the way, before you do a task like this or any task whatsoever, you got to go ahead and set yourself up. It makes it so much easier, so you're not having to find stuff and making things take longer. And I live by the motto, if you fail to plan, then you're prepared to fail. So that's what I try to do in most cases. You can't always do that. Sometimes it is a fly by the seat of your pants, take things as they come type of deal. And I don't fault you, because I'm guilty of that myself. But in this video, I just wanted to show the clear, methodology that I try to take whenever I'm doing something like this. And again, I already know what I'm going to feel like afterwards. By the time I get done with this job, I know that there's a high likelihood that I'm probably going to be done for the rest of the day physically. Just whether it just be pains, usually it's just pain. So what I also do in that preparation, the days prior, I did everything that I thought needed to get done, especially the small jobs and things that just are time consuming. I've done those. I've also made sure that I don't need to absolutely do anything out here in my yard or my garden for the next at least 2 days. So that again saves me, mental capacity, having that in the back of my head, pushing me to get back up and do stuff, when really the smart idea is to recuperate, whichever way your recuperation looks like. All right, guys, your boy's all washed up, getting a drink. I must say, though, water is probably your best friend, but do as I say, not as I do, or whatever beverage suits you is the right beverage. What you did not see in the clip of me doing the compost pile is when I got everything out of the bin, and after I went ahead and I put the front back on, I stopped for about 5-10 minutes, washed my hands, got some drinks, cooled down just a little bit, because even though it's 55 degrees out today, any kind of hard labor is gonna heat you up. So I did listen to my body. I stopped, made sure I was cool before I kept going. That being said, I make these videos to help make sure that, safety first is foremost on people's minds. I make these limitation videos to help others who might be in a position like I am physically or worse, feel like they can still do things themselves, that they're not a burden, and that just because they have to do things differently doesn't mean they can't get things done. I will say, I am happy that I've cut it down to doing 1 pile a year versus doing 2 or sometimes 3 piles a year, just because that means I can get it done and out of the way. All the compost made for that year is the same as far as by the time it gets incorporated. That's the first flip. What you saw there was I do my flips in thirds. So the top goes down in front on the first tarp. The middle went to the lighter blue tarp because it's the hot center. And then the bottom goes behind the top part. And then when I reload it back into the bin, never mind, those were just Cobra chickens, aka Canadian geese. But like I was saying, the hot part that was in the middle, I then put back into the compost pile first. Then the top that I took off first goes to the middle, and then what was the bottom now becomes the top. So it's basically dropping down a level, and that just makes sure that there's heat from the center at the bottom. And if everybody knows their high school science class, heat rises, so that helps reheat the pile. But I also showed on the thermometer here that pile, even after all that time, by the time I got it completed again, it was right back up at 90 degrees. And again, today is a 55-degree day. So biology's still working. That being said, for this video, I hope it helps people say, hey, composting is for me. It's a dirty job, but if you want it, somebody's got to do it. And for me personally, it helps me mentally know that the things that are growing in my garden, I'm doing myself. It's not the easy way, it's not the quick way, but it's worth it. So you have to make the decision for you, and that's the only person who can say what's right, what's wrong, or what can or can't be done. So with that, I'm your boy, Big Wheel Dog 82, in the soil. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.